So do you really know when you've been scammed? Can you spot a fake a mile away? Guys, today I wanted to talk about an issue that's very dear to my heart, and it's how to spot a fake. Now, the rise of fake counterfeit decks out there on the market today is increasing threefold. Everywhere I look, there are more and more of them. On the different groups that I'm in, people are consistently saying, has anybody got the guidebook? Can somebody give me information about this card? I've got the deck, but I'm not sure what it means. This is showing me that there are more and more people being caught by the counterfeit decks and being scammed out of their hard-earned money for an inferior product. And I just wanted to talk through some of the red flags that can help you become aware before hopefully you purchase a deck, to avoid getting a counterfeit fake deck, and talk about some of the things that you can do to protect yourselves. So I wanted to show you these decks. Here we have a tarot deck, the Green Witch Tarot, and two oracle decks, Moonology, which is a fast-selling deck, and the Queen of the Moon Oracle. And again, these are easily available online, and they are mass market decks, all three of them. So these are the original decks, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you the counterfeit fake decks. So we have this one here, and this one here. Now the reason I have three of them here is to show you that it doesn't matter which deck you're looking for. These days, there's often a counterfeit deck out there. So we need to be really diligent and we need to be really careful. So I want to talk about red flags. These are things that you can often notice or sense before you make a purchase. And it's really important that we are aware of what they are so that we can look out for them and we can find a way to protect ourselves so that we don't end up with these counterfeit fake decks, which are inferior quality. So when you're looking online, it gets a little bit tricky, but one of the most important things to look for is whether or not the deck says card deck or card deck and guidebook. So as you can see here on the fake one, it says a 44 card deck. But here on the original, it says a 44 card deck and guidebook. So that is something that you can look for. Other things you can look for when you're looking at the images is whether or not on the images that they show you, it actually has a publishing house. So as you can see here, this one says Rockpool, this one says Hay House. This one here is a little bit harder to see, but it does say Llewellyn here. So looking for whether or not the images show a publishing house is a really good way to try and establish if something is a counterfeit deck or an original. Another thing is that they often, they always come in these tuck boxes, as you can see, which is quite different to the original decks. So these tuck boxes are quite flimsy, and as you can see, the original decks here, these are, this one is Rockpool Publishing, so it's an Australian publishing company. They make them in the two-piece box. This one is from Hay House. They are in a two-piece box. And this one here from Llewellyn is in a magnetic closure. So as you can see, very different boxes to these horrible, cheap and nasty tuck boxes that you have here. Now the next thing that's a big difference between these, and you can actually notice in the listing, is whether or not it says it has a guidebook. So all of these fake editions do not have a guidebook. They are completely missing, but in the originals, each one has its own guidebook with it. So, and these are really key features of the decks, and they're absolutely beautiful and full of great information. So I really encourage you to make sure that you do due diligence so that you can make sure that you get an original. The next thing that you'll notice is that all of the fake decks, and you can usually see this, or it will refer to it in the written information on the listings, have a QR code. So if it's a fake or counterfeit deck, it has a QR code on it somewhere. And the idea of the QR code is that you can scan it and it will take you to a website, and it says scan to download guidebook. Now, the interesting thing about this is that if you scan it, 99% of the time it doesn't even work, and you can't access the PDF guidebook, which has been pirated anyway. So you don't have access to the information to be able to support the cards. So as you can see, next we'll take a look at the difference in the cards. So these are the counterfeit ones, and you can see that they're significantly smaller than these ones here. The quality is really subpar. These are gorgeous and lovely to hold and quite sturdy, and the colouring on the cards is really beautiful, and the detail is definitely there. But when you look at these ones, the detail is often quite lost. They're a lot darker. The colouring's not the same. The feel of them is really horrible. They're quite poor grade, and it's just not the experience of using these is definitely not the same as the experience of using and holding and working with these cards. And it's exactly the same regardless of which fake counterfeit deck you get. These are the size of a general playing card that you would normally get, and obviously these are the cards here. Again, the size difference is significant, and we lose a lot of the detail in these ones because the colouring and everything is really substandard. Now when it comes to the tarot cards here, we also have a difference. They can see the colour difference here a little bit more accurate, I think. Here you can see the difference in the size of the cards. This is exactly the same card, and we just lose a lot of detail. Here we've got the little flowers and things that you can clearly see with the stems, but here it just looks like blobs. It's not the same detail, which is a real shame. Definitely substandard cards. So some of you may be asking, Karen, why does it matter if I buy a counterfeit? I've still got the cards, I can still use them. Well, I just want to say that for me, it's a real personal choice. It's an ethical choice that I choose to make sure that I'm not supporting somebody who is ripping off somebody else's hard-earned artistry and knowledge and their creation. I don't want to support somebody that does that. So I want to be able to support creators and publishers. That's why I take a number of steps when I'm purchasing a deck to make sure I get an original, and I'll talk about them in a moment. But I really want the quality. I want to be able to enjoy the quality that comes with genuine cards and have the ability to tap into that. And I enjoy the creators' guidebooks and their interpretation and the way that they talk about their creation and what it means. And even though I'm not someone that uses a guidebook all of the time, I love having it here, and I love being able to refer to it if I need it. It definitely is a major part of the cards for me. So how do I protect myself when I'm looking online so that I don't end up with a counterfeit or fake deck? I do my research. I go to the original publisher of the deck or the creator, and I learn about the deck. I investigate the images that they have, and I look at them closely. I see and read the information that they have, and I'll be able to work out what kind of box it comes in, what kind of size the cards are, what the release date is, and how and where I can purchase the deck. So that's the first thing that I do. And if I'm purchasing online, that's the easiest place for me to get caught up, as most people do, in purchasing a scam or counterfeit deck. So the next thing I do is I look at listings. So if I'm looking at a listing, I look to see if the information that's being shared is of poor quality and not very well put together. If it has misspellings in it that kind of don't make sense. If the English doesn't flow very well for me personally, that is a red flag. If they have a listing and it has multiple decks that you can choose from, like it has a flip down menu where you can click whether you want the moonology deck or you want the Greenwich Tarot or that kind of thing. If you can click down and choose which decks you want, that's definitely a red flag that you're looking at somebody who is mass producing fake and counterfeit decks and just wants to on sale as many of them as they possibly can. We have listings that are really cheap. So I know that we all like a bargain and we all like to get value for money, but if you come across a listing and you know that you've been researching a deck and the deck is like $20, $30, $40, whatever it might be, and then you come across a listing and it says, you know, $7.95 or $11.13. They're usually really weird numbers that they give you for the price of the decks. If you see those, then that is a huge red flag that you are looking at a counterfeit deck. Now, unfortunately, as I say this, they're getting a lot more smarter and they're making sure that it's getting harder and harder to spot these fake decks. And sometimes they're selling them for exactly the same price as a normal deck. And unfortunately, no matter how much due diligence you tend to do, you can still get caught. So the other day I bought from a reputable company and I actually got this deck here. And I paid standard price for a tarot deck that I would expect to pay for an original. And I ended up with this one. And obviously it has all the red flags that weren't obvious from the interaction that I had with them. But obviously it's in a tuck box, as you can see. It has a QR code. It doesn't have a guidebook. It's a standard size of a regular playing card and the quality is substandard. So I was really, really disappointed. So even when we're dealing with smaller companies and things, we need to be really careful that they're not getting caught up in purchasing wholesale fake decks and on selling them without knowing what they're doing, which I believe is the case for this one. So making sure that you stay away from places like eBay, AliExpress, Wish. They're really quite full of these fake decks. If you're gonna, you can get some really great bargains when people have secondhand decks from those places. But I really encourage you, if you're looking at places like eBay, that you do read the listings, that you make sure you do due diligence. I stay away from people who sell them from overseas, generally in Asia. I stay away from people who have multiple listings, not only of the cards that you can drop down and choose from, but also have just a mass amount of cards available for sale, because I don't believe that normal everyday people have some of the quantities that they have. So often you'll see them and they'll say, you know, that they have 100 for sale. I think that when you're looking online, that can be quite a huge amount and would definitely be a red flag for me. So as you can see here, I'll just show you quickly. This is the beautiful moonology card. Step it out of your comfort zone, the North Node. It's absolutely gorgeous. The colouring in it is really graduated and beautiful. The imagery here is quite fine and detailed, but when you look at this one here, which is the counterfeit one, it all just gets lost. It just doesn't have the graduation in the colour. You've lost the finer detail. It doesn't really give me any beautiful feel or energy to it. So definitely, guys, originals are the best. So there you have it, guys, how to see the red flags, which are easily able to be found. Make sure that you look at the kind of box that it's in, if it's a tuck box. I do want to just say that there are, I think the US Games system, when they create decks, put them in tuck boxes, but they always come with a guidebook, even if it's only a small little guidebook. It always comes with it. There are some listings showing up these days that have a little guidebook like that, so it's getting harder and harder. The counterfeiters are getting so much more switched on to try and trick us, which is becoming really, really challenging. I tend to buy most of my decks from the publishing houses themselves to try and avoid the issues that I've just talked about with you, and I tend to purchase indie decks via Kickstarter or follow the footpath from Kickstarter through to their websites, or often it's an Etsy site. And I don't like buying decks off Etsy unless I followed it from somewhere like Kickstarter and I can verify for myself that that is the original creator and the original deck that I will be getting. So I know I've probably rambled a bit here, guys, but I really hope that the information that I've given you is of some benefit and that you do have a way forward to make sure that you end up with something like these beautiful original decks rather than these low quality counterfeit decks. So again, the red flags are a tuck box. It has no guidebook. It has a QR code. There's no publisher listed on the box. It's a much smaller size, and the color difference is really inferior, as is the product itself. Ways that you can protect yourself is do your due diligence, research the deck that you want and become familiar with what the original deck comprises of, such as the size of the cards, whether it has a guidebook or not, what kind of box that it comes in. Make sure that you are familiar with the places that are known as places that sell counterfeit and scam cards, so that you can avoid them at all costs. And whatever you do, I hope that this doesn't spoil your experience with Oracle and Tarot card decks. My reason for creating this deck is to bring awareness. I know there's a lot of it out there, but I really wanted to bring awareness, and I really wanted to help try and assist people to navigate this monsoon of decks that are coming onto the market. We've seen an influx of decks, and it's just incredible. The rise of tarot and oracle decks has just exploded in the last couple of years, and we've got so many new people that are coming along and they're wanting to experience them, which is absolutely fantastic. But they're getting caught up in this counterfeit world. So my wish today is that you are now a little bit more informed than you might have been, that you have some tools and strategies that you can move forward with to try and establish if the deck you're buying is an original or whether it's a counterfeit, and that you can continue to grow your love of oracle and tarot cards and spend your hard-earned money on a hugely beautiful quality deck that will last a lifetime, rather than these flimsy knockoffs.